Let's get into it. Coach Colin here, Sold Not For Sale podcast. We got Joe Rogan speaking with a guest, young comedian, hasn't been introduced to the world of conspiracy theories. In fact, he fights conspiracy. And him and Joe Rogan kind of battle it out in between, are conspiracies, quote unquote conspiracies, are they real? Or is it just, it's just random, just lone shooter. I found it very interesting. I'm going to play this for you. I got 2 clips here. We're going to play the first one where they get into it, and then the second one where they kind of leave it all off. Let's go.
You don't think he had some help?
No.
No? Do you think
so.
Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone?
Yeah. I'm not a big conspiracy theory.
So the Bill Hicks joke, you don't buy into it?
I love the joke.
You love the joke.
But I'm not a big
Have you ever read into that
guy.
one?
I read a little, yeah.
You need to read more. That's one you really shouldn't be flipping about. They killed that guy.
But here's the thing with Trump, though. Like, why would he need... So you thought, like, Biden's trying to take him out?
I don't think it was Biden. I think it could be a number of people that were involved. But it seems, at the very least, like they were so lax in security that they were inviting something to happen. At the very least. And knowing that guy was walking around more than 30 minutes before with a rangefinder.
Right.
Seeing that guy, he'd come back and forth. They observed him multiple times. People were talking about him. They were keeping an eye on him. And this guy gets on the roof with a rifle and gets off 3 shots.
Well, my thing with a lot of conspiracy theories is it just kind of ignores incompetence. I feel like incompetence is a real thing.
Incompetence is a real theory. You know what's a real thing? Conspiracies. Those are real too.
Some of them are real.
The problem with dismissing conspiracies as being just a silly conspiracy theories, that was the whole goal of the Warren Commission report. And that was when the term conspiracy theory got into the zeitgeist.
Well, I don't dismiss,
as a pejorative.
I don't dismiss, and I didn't mean to offend.
No, you didn't offend. No.
I don't dismiss. There's huge amount of corruption and horrible things. Mm-hmm. I just think a lot of times incompetence does play a big part, and I do think like there is incompetence and there's like randomness a lot. And
some dude had a really good joke about it that he put up on Instagram. It was very funny. Let me see if I can find it. Maybe you can find it, Jamie. He said that it was basically like, if I thought they were going to try an assassination attempt, that seems exactly like how the government would do it. Like really inefficient. Really, it was like he said it was like the DMV of assassination attempts. Oh, find this dude. Who sent that to me?
But it's also, I mean, I guess for me, it's like you also have to like.
You find it?
I know. I saw it recently too. I know what you're talking about.
Somebody sent it to me. I get too many texts.
Anything can be real, but I also think the idea that he was a lone shooter is not, that world is not a crazy world. The idea that we're in a violent place.
No, I'm not
everyone
saying
has guns.
No, not saying that he wasn't a lone shooter. Yeah. I think he was a lone shooter. Maybe there was other people shooting at him. I think he was trained. And I think somebody got him detonators. He had sophisticated detonators and explosive devices.
That's why you're like lone shooter, but trained by the military.
I think someone talked that guy into doing that. I don't think someone talked that guy into doing it. I think it's possible that someone talked that guy into doing that.
Yeah, I mean anything's possible. I'm not like dismissing that. I just think like he's like a school shooter who got political. You know,
they took his body away and cremated it 10 days after the assassination. No toxicology report. No public. There's been no press conference about it. No telling all the details. Here's what we know. They went to the kid's house. It was professionally scrubbed. Didn't have silverware in it.
Right.
There's a phone that was going back and forth because, they have ad data. They can track cell phone when they ping. There's a phone going back and forth between the offices of the FBI in Washington, D.C. and this kid's house on multiple occasions.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I don't know.
That's where things get weird, right?
You'd hate me with my views. I don't.
No.
I don't even think Epstein.
I would not hate you with your views.
I'm like the opposite of a conspiracy theorist.
That's interesting. So you think Epstein killed himself?
I'm not saying he definitely killed himself, but I also think it is believable that he is a little depressed at that point.
Certainly.
You know what I mean? That's
Certainly.
what I think. I think like the possibility of it not being a conspiracy is sometimes very like plausible.
Sure.
To the point where I don't need if you need to go to a conspiracy. Like
sometimes.
Maybe he got killed, but Epstein was also not in a great place at that point.
True.
You know what I mean? So I could see that both ways.
But then you have to look at the autopsy.
Yeah.
And you have to look at the ligature marks around the base of his neck, which is not really what happens when you hang yourself. When you hang yourself, your weight of your body is what kills you.
Yeah.
And so the ligature marks, the strangulation marks are underneath the chin. His was down by his neck, and his neck was actually fractured, which is also indicative of someone getting strangled to death. Dr. Michael Baden, who's that forensic scientist that did that show Autopsy, remember that show on HBO? He examined the autopsy examined what the results were, and he found that the fractures in the neck were indicative of someone being strangled to death.
But wasn't there another coroner who said it was like suicide?
Sure.
It's just
First
like multiple.
coroner.
Yeah.
Yeah. First guy said
Well,
suicide.
why can't we believe that guy?
Well, it seems very convenient that the cameras went out.
Yeah.
It seems very convenient that the people that were on security were asleep. It seems very convenient. All of it seems convenient.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he didn't get killed.
It seems convenient. The most high-profile defense witness in a very important case that might have been about elites and child pedophilia would probably want to take that guy out.
But also a narcissist who's going to be about to be who's the most hated person in the world I could see him killing himself.
Sure.
I'm just saying.
Could.
I'm not saying he didn't kill. He could have killed himself. I mean, he could have been killed.
So how long have you been working for the government?
I hate me now.
I don't hate you.
I'm not a big, I think Oswald acted alone. I don't know. I'm a believer in incompetence and that everyone most people are bad at their job.
Did you ever watch the Zapruder film?
Yeah,
the film of Kennedy's head going back into the left?
Of course.
How do you think that happens when you get shot from behind?
What do you mean?
His head goes back into the left like he got shot from the front.
I don't know. I don't.
You never see that was a Hicks bit.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Back into the left.
But I also think they've tried so long to find the conspiracy for that, and it always kind of comes to a dead end. I don't know. I think what Oswald did was.
I like the way you think. You don't want to think about it this way. I like it. I like what you're saying.
Well, to me, I think a lot of conspiracy theorists think like the other person, like I'm naive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's the opposite. I think like it sometimes can be naive to think there's someone masterminding everything. You know what I mean? Like to me, I think like, and I don't know all the evidence. I'm sure there's all these reports and stuff, but like to me, I think like sometimes crazy shit happens, and when you look at it backwards, it doesn't. Yeah, it's crazy that he shot someone from that far and it worked. You know what I mean?
That's true.
But it's also crazy that it happens, and we also have never seen. A lot of times stuff happens where we've never seen that, like 9/11. Mm-hmm. We never had two planes hit a building, but you immediately had people being like, buildings don't fall like that. It's like, this is the first time it's happened.
That's true.
So it's like, we don't always know, like, it's a lot of times something happening that's crazy, but also, like, never happened before that people are like, that's not how it happens. But it's like, how do you know?
That's true. Like planes flying into the buildings, especially buildings that are that tall. That's all true.
And I do think, I've read, it was 9/11. There was so much incompetence as a government, a lack of communication between the FBI and the CIA, you know? And I'm not saying some conspiracies aren't true, definitely, and there's a lot of corruption, but I'm just a firm believer in incompetence.
Incompetence is real, but conspiracies are too.
Some conspiracies are real, yeah.
The Lee Harvey Oswald one, when you look into it, it's pretty nutty.
Yeah.
It's pretty nutty. You know? A lot of people heard shots from the grassy knoll. The amount of people that were eyewitnesses that died in mysterious ways is extraordinary, like off the charts odds, like that don't make any sense.
But I also do think sometimes the brain like finds patterns that aren't always
sure, and also people kill people. That happens too.
Both.
The thing about the Oswald thing is there's also a lot of evidence that points to the fact that they were trying to come to the conclusion that there was a lone gunman despite the evidence. And one of those is the magic bullet theory. The magic bullet theory is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. That would never fly today.
What is it? The bullet went through and then
it went through Kennedy and then into Connolly, and then they found it in pristine condition on the gurney, and then they attributed that bullet to all these wounds because they had to, because there was only 3 shots supposedly, and in those 3 shots that Oswald was able to get off, they knew one of them hit the back, and they knew one of them was hit Connolly, and one of them blew up his head. Well, they had all different bullets for these things, for these different injuries, but then a guy got hit with a ricochet in the underpass, so they had to account for one of those bullets missing the target and hitting the whatever it is, granite curbstone, and banging into this guy's face, and the guy had to go to the hospital. They found the curbstone that had been hit with a bullet, and so they knew that a ricochet had hit there, so now they had 2 bullets that had to have all these wounds. And so instead of saying, hey, maybe there's more than one person shooting, maybe there's more than this one guy that was in the book depository, all these people said there was shots coming from the grassy knoll, maybe they were telling the truth. Instead of that, they said, no, one bullet went crazy and went, oh, and look, we found it, here's the bullet, all good, and look at the bullet.
All right, I'll give you Oswald
that bullet,
if you give
look
me
at that
the
bullet. That
Trump
bullet,
shooter.
That bullet supposedly went through 2 people, and they found it in that condition on a gurney. If you've ever shot anything with a bullet, you know that's straight horseshit.
Oh, when you take the young guys to school. This young comedian, what's his name? Ronan? This guy seems like he's ready to do a late night show. That's what he's ready for. Some comedians are like that. Some comedians are like, I don't really care about what you're talking about. I don't care about truth. I don't care about waking people up. I want to get to the Tonight Show, and I want to do that for 20 years. Seems good to me. Or they want to get into movies. So they're always trying to tread the line. He seems like one of those guys. And I'm saying that solely based on the fact of everything that he's saying right now. Just leaving it all up to incompetence. That's all just incompetence. That's all it really is. Like, what? How is it? It's incompetence, but then you're also leaving a factor of then, Thomas Crook, Trump shooter. You're putting his competence through the roof. JFK shooter. You're putting his competence through the roof, but you're dismissing the competence of all of these people together. I've said it quite often. As much as I may not like those agencies, they're not dumb. Like, yeah, you might have one or two dumb people, but as a whole, it is a machine that can grab media and grab Hollywood and install superstars. It's capable of some wild stuff. Okay? Like, I'm just saying, as much as I don't like it, I don't sit there and call it dumb, because that would be a very, very bad mistake. So I'm going to play the rest of this, because that was just the rest of that was just Joe schooling him on JFK and him basically being like, yeah, I guess. Yeah. And then on top of that, he's scared of Joe Rogan. It's like, at least stand by what you're saying. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's get into the second part.
And controls discomfort. So yeah, he was all up.
But it's like there's things like when things don't make sense, there are sometimes an explanation that's like kind of like almost boring or random. It's like the thing with Zapruder. I think it's a Zapruder. The person puts the umbrella up. Mm-hmm. Is that in Zapruder? There's a guy who has an umbrella up and it's not raining. And for years, they thought he might have been involved, like signaling. Mm-hmm. And they finally find the guy. They bring him in front of everyone, and he's like, "I'm British." And in England, it's a real you when you like raise your umbrella when a car's driving by. And he hated Kennedy, so he was just doing a you. But then for years, people were like, "Oh, that was part of the signal." I just think. I mean, I'm not saying some conspiracies aren't true. I just think there's sometimes other reasons that get lost.
Yeah,
like
for
that,
sure. Certainly, people look for things that aren't there.
Right.
I've read conspiracies about me, and I'm like, this is hilarious.
Well,
it's
weird
they're
when
not
you read
true.
them,
but it's weird when you read them about you, and you're like, oh, this is how this works. People just make shit up and they just run with it.
What's the one about you?
Oh, just nonsense. Being handled by the CIA, being a part of the Illuminati, all kinds of stupid shit.
Throwing people off your trail by being into conspiracy theories so people don't realize you're part of the CIA?
Well, they just want to think you're controlled. They want us to think that at a certain point, someone comes to you and you get controlled. But that's not real.
No.
The reality is no one's in control.
That's the
right.
To me, that's
also
the
reality
reality.
Is MK Ultra was real, and they really were trying to teach people how to kill people, and they did it with Charlie Manson.
No, yeah. I mean, there's definitely real horrible shit. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying there's not horrible shit, but I do think no one's really steering the ship, and that's like the really scary thing.
Right. I think our idea is that there's this one group of people that all agree with each other. I don't think that's real.
Exactly.
I think there's competing factions even at the top levels. I think they're always battling with each other.
Yes.
Look, the people in the Navy sometimes don't like the people in the Army. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like this is the CIA and the
CIA
FBI.
not communicating with the FBI
yeah,
and 9/11.
that's 100% real.
And that's why when people look at all of Israelis, not to bring it back to that, look at you as like a Zionist conspiracy, you're now.
Oh, no time for any conspiracy, but definitely time to talk about people having conspiracies about Zionists. No, I don't like it. I don't like when a guest comes and they're just like, I'm so middle of the road. Oh, I'm just so middle of the road, me. No opinions. And then they want a 20-minute segment of just Israel and Palestine. No, I don't even listen to those segments anymore. I love Dave Smith, but nope. I want to listen to stuff about America only. That's it. Sorry. UK every once in a while, because what's going on there is very telling to what can go on in America. But other than that, no. Of course, you want to, it's just, like Coleman Hughes did that. Guy has a book to promote. Oh, yeah, they're just talking about everything. And then a 48-minute chunk of just him talking about Israel and Palestine. Get out of here. Good Lord. Out of all the thousands of guests, what are we? 2192? Out of 2192, we've had maybe 2 guests talk about Kensington, Philadelphia. And they weren't even really talking about Kensington. They were just talking about Trank, and they were talking about fentanyl. Come on, man. It's TED Talk mode. My apologies. Let me just relax there for a second. But it's funny that he was saying when it came to Epstein, he was a little depressed. So when you're a little depressed, that's when you... Really? Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. But here's the thing with people like this. It's not just this guy, but it's people like this. They will have this opinion that it's like, oh, but what about incompetence? Incompetence is the real thing. I mean, we always discount incompetence. Maybe so. But also, this guy doesn't know anything about the theories he's talking about. He brings up the Zapruder film, Joe, and this guy doesn't even know. He's like, back and to the left. What do you mean? You're not even looking into it. You're just like, crazy stuff. I despise that attitude. Now, somebody who looks at everything and goes, I don't believe it. It's like, okay, well, that guy built an opinion. He has all the same information that everybody has. He went through it all. That's just his opinion. But when you don't know anything, like this guy, when it comes to Epstein, he doesn't know about Robert Maxine, or what's her name? Ghislaine. He doesn't know about her dad and her dad going out very similar to Epstein. He doesn't know about that. He has no idea. When stuff hit the fan with her dad, all of a sudden he's on a yacht and oh, he's gone. Oh gosh. All of a sudden stuff hits the fan with Epstein and all of a sudden, oh, he's gone. He's gone. You know, I'm of the camp that it's possible he didn't even pass away. I'm in that camp where it's very possible. If he has enough connections, why couldn't he possibly have a connection to somebody who could provide a body double, to somebody who could talk to the warden of the jail, to somebody who could fly him away, to somebody who can move his funds secretly, to somebody? Why? I don't know. That's just me. But again, we're going down a conspiracy rabbit hole. And the last thing is this guy, and it's actually not the last thing, but this guy doesn't connect the dots to anything. You know, like sometimes there's too many things that line up for you to just say crazy stuff happens. Trump is a perfect example. What happened with Trump? So he was at a rally. Okay. So there's all these spots. They have all the spots covered except for one that's 140 yards away. Okay. Why isn't anybody on that roof like all the other places? Why isn't that place manned and covered? Well, because the roof is too sloped. But then when you look at the snipers elsewhere, they're on an even more sloped roof. So what are you really talking about there? What that lady was saying does not check out. That doesn't make sense, right? The guy has a rangefinder. He's walking around the place. Like Joe said, there was communications between him and a phone that was going near a place called Gallery Palace, I believe. I looked into it before. That place is very close to a lot of agency headquarters and whatnot. Who was that person? Nothing. Go to the house. House is scrubbed. No silverware. Nothing. Body taken away. Straight up cremated. Nothing. Parents, no remarks from the parents. No remarks from the media, really. And after a month, the mainstream media has pushed this thing aside so no one thinks about it again. Are you kidding me? Guy gets off the shots. Shot. Just think about how long I'm doing that. Shot. Then someone gets him. What? Police department now is saying, or sorry, it was a SWAT team of that area. They were saying there was zero communication between them and Secret Service. Zero. Even when they had wind that somebody was on the roof pointing with a rangefinder, pointing at the president, no communication. They tried to relay the message, but for some reason it doesn't get to Secret Service at all. Okay. There's just too many things that are adding up for someone to just go, you know, crazy stuff happens sometimes, you know? It's like, no, that's not just crazy stuff happening. That was everything happened just perfectly, you know? You know how God makes a miracle sometimes? And you're like, wow, all these things just came together. Well, that's like the opposite. That's like the devil just made sure like every single piece is going to come together real nice for you. But yeah, anyway, TED Talk mode here. Just each thing that they touch on, he's not well read in at all. And he just keeps on bringing up incompetence. And yeah, that plays a factor, definitely. But to think that there's no one masterminding things is so crazy. You know what I mean? There's always an attempt to have someone at the head of something. Even in a family, if there's 4 kids and there's a mom and there's a dad, the dad is trying to mastermind things. This one's going to go to this sport. This one's going to do this. This one kind of likes this. I'm going to get the money there. There's somebody actually masterminding when it comes to that. On the state level, there's somebody, and again, they could be incompetent, but there's somebody who actually is there at the head of things saying, okay, can we do this? And they're meeting with a bunch of people. They're all colluding and they're trying to get things set right in a state. Unless you're California, New York, or Philadelphia, or Chicago, or Minnesota, because then you're just letting it run. You're just letting it run wild. You're just letting whatever happens. You don't care. You know? But there's always somebody. President, there's people beyond that. There's people beyond that. There's people in the background. And this is all confirmed to the extent, the only thing that's missing in the confirmation of this, that there are people always colluding in the background, is those people coming from the shadows and being like, we actually orchestrate everything. We install presidents. We try our best. Doesn't always work, but most of the time it does. Okay, bye. That's all we're missing. We've seen enough to know this. It's just very interesting. And again, I got no problem with someone that doesn't believe in all the theories or doesn't, but if you're not taking in all the facts and then you're just like incompetence, that's nonsense. What a nonsense view. I'm so glad young guys like this can get on Joe Rogan's podcast and get a learning or two. And listen, this guy wasn't going for it. Again, I really do think that this guy, his end mission is, let me get in some movies, let me become a writer somewhere. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy where it's like he wants to be a comedian for the next 40 years of his life. Those people exist. Like Mark Norman. Mark Norman doesn't want to be in any writer's room. Ari Shaffir is not trying to do, maybe he has in the past, but you can tell Ari's just comedy. Mark is just comedy until it's done. That's it. That's just what they're doing. You can tell Joe does other things, but you can tell he's just being a comedian until he's 74 years old. That's just what's happening with him. Dave Chappelle, same thing. There's certain people where it's like they try little things and they'll do little movies and this and that, but they stick with comedy through it all. And this guy is not going to be one of those people. That's just me. Okay? And if you're asking me how I came to this conclusion, well, I'm just going to say incompetence. You're undervaluing incompetence. Sometimes crazy things just happen. I don't need all the facts to come up. Oh man, I'm kidding, of course. Actually, I'm not kidding. I think that guy wants to be on the Tonight Show or something. There's sometimes people are just keeping a little bit PC as possible. Like these guys didn't touch on politics. These guys didn't touch on not even psychedelics, not even drug. They didn't touch on anything really. The only thing that was of any controversial nature was those segments that I just showed you. And that guy was just tiptoeing through that whole thing the whole time. He's like, I'm not in the conspiracies. Called Joe Rogan a conspiracy theorist. You know, keep saying crazy things just happen. Listen. I watch every episode twice. I'm just saying. I've watched a lot of people on this show. Okay? Can tell where they want to go. I'm an aficionado over here, okay? Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Other than that, I'm out.